Sahanavavatu Sahanau bhunaktu Saha Viryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu ma vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om Tat Sat. Om Akhandamandalakaram Vyaptam Yena Characharam Tatpadam Darshitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Vasudeva Sutam Devam Kamsachanuramardanam Devaki Paramanandam Krishnam Vande Jagadgurum. So pranam to everyone. Thank you for joining us today. In today's session, we will continue with our discussion of chapter 7. We'll do 3 shlokas today, 12 to 14 of chapter 7. And I've titled this as the 3 gunas of Sri Bhagavan's Maya Prakriti. If you recollect, in the earlier sessions also, I've been speaking about the 3 gunas, sattva, rajas, and tamas. But today we will go into them in more detail. So let's first recap what we have done earlier. Chapter 7 began with the Sri Bhagavan saying that by engaging in bhakti yoga, with our mind absorbed in him, Maya sakta manav partha yogam yunjan madashrayah asamshayam samagram mam yatha gyasyasi tatshunu. So if we engage in bhakti yoga, engage in his seva with ekata and anukulata, and our minds are genuinely absorbed in him, then we can get to know him. But Sri Bhagavan also points out, Manushyanam sahasreshu kaschid yatati siddhaye yatatamapi siddhanam kaschin mam veti tattvataha. Only a rare person really gets to know me as I am. And then in the last session, we also learned this, that there are 2 types of manifestations very broadly. Sri Bhagavan has, actually, to tell you the way it is categorized in the Bhagavatam, in the Gita it is not given in so much detail, but in the Bhagavatam and other Shastra, the elaboration of Sri Bhagavan's Prakriti, his Shaktis are like this. Sri Bhagavan is the original Shaktiman. Shaktiman is the person who possesses the Shaktis. So, very broadly speaking, the classification is of 3 Shaktis that he has. His Antaranga Shakti means internal energy. Tatastha Shakti means on the border, Tat border. And Bahiranga Shakti, external energy. Antaranga Shakti, Bahiranga Shakti, and Tatastha Shakti. So his Antaranga Shakti refers to what is permanently within him, always, all the time. And regardless of any manifestation, that Shakti is inside him, it gives him pleasure. So broadly speaking, the Antaranga Shakti is again divided into 3 categories. Hladini, Sandhini, and Samvit Shakti. Hladini Shakti is that Shakti which produces pleasure. That is the source of his eternal pleasure. All the time, Sri Bhagavan is happy. He is fully experiencing what is called as Ananda. That Ananda is a very swabhavik or a swarupik property of Bhagavan. It is not something that comes by something he does. He doesn't have to do anything to become happy. He is also always happy all the time, fully content, and experiencing bliss all the time. That is called Hladini Shakti. Second is Sandhini Shakti. Sandhini is his potency by which he exists eternally. Existential property. That is the property that we also have. We also exist eternally. And the third is Samvit Shakti. Samvit is that Shakti or that potency by which he is all-knowing. Knowledge is never absent in him. There is no spot of ignorance in Sri Bhagavan. Bhagavan is eternally all-knowing. So Hladini, Sandhini, and Samvit. Of these, 2 of the Shaktis are present in us. The first is the Sandhini Shakti. We are also eternally existing, as he says in the Bhagavad-gi also. There is never a time when we did not exist, nor will there be a time when we will cease to exist. Natvevaham jatunasam natvam nemejamatinadipaha, 2nd chapter. And the other energy called Samvit is also present in us to a good degree. By our own Swarupa, we are actually filled with knowledge. At least we have the knowledge that we are not this body. That knowledge is present in us. But right now, because of the influence of Maya, which we will talk about now, we have forgotten that we have that knowledge. And therefore, we believe that we are this body, etc. And the third is Hladini Shakti, which is currently not with us. So Hladini Shakti is also called Prema. And the goal of Bhakti, Uttama Bhakti, is to acquire that Prema, that Antaranga Hladini Shakti, so that we can also experience the same Ananda that he is experiencing. And that goal is considered to be far higher than the goal of Mukti. The goal of Mukti is very elaborately described in the Bhagavad-Gita. And the goal of Prema is described in the Gita in an indirect manner. But that goal, the Bhagavatam says, should be the goal of life, and it is far higher than the goal of Mukti. The Bhagavatam, you can say, belittles the goal of Mukti. It says that Mukti is inferior to Prema. Okay, now that's about his Shaktis. Today, what we're talking about is, of course, I talked about the Antaranga Shakti right now, is Bahiranga Shakti. Bahiranga Shakti is the Shakti by which he creates this material universe, the existence that we are experiencing now, because we belong to the category of Jivatmas that are called the Baddha Jivas. We are in the samsara for a very long time, since beginninglessness, okay, beyond time. So our ignorance has prevented us from realizing our own self and also Sri Bhagavan. And making that happen is the role of the Bahiranga Shakti. The Bahiranga Shakti is also called as Maya Shakti. She appears to us as Maya, illusion. So Maya means illusion. And that Maya makes us believe that this is our eternal place. Even for that matter, the belief that, death is something that will not happen to me. Most people do not think of death, right? We don't think that we will ever die. Even a person who's actually dying will not believe that I'm going to die. He will just think that something will come and rescue me or save me from here so that I can continue to live in this life, right? Death is unreal for most of us. And that is the function of illusion. Illusion creates that feeling that we are eternal. And that comes from our original eternal nature. The original eternal nature that we have is a tendency to, because we exist always. But existing in this particular body, that is temporary. And illusion makes us believe that it is not temporary. It is eternal. Okay, so that is the function of the Bahiranga Shakti. And in the 7th chapter, in the last session that we had, Sri Bhagavan said that this material Prakriti is made up of the 8 elements, the basic 8 elements. And then he said, the Jivatma, the Tatastha Shakti is the Jivatma, the third one. The Jivatmas are the Para Prakriti. He said, Apara Prakriti is the 8 elements, which I showed you, map of 24 elements actually. Those 8 represent the bigger category of 24. The Jivatmas are the Tatastha Shakti. So they are the inferior and superior manifestations in this material universe. Now, Sri Bhagavan also says that Etad Yonini Bhutani Sarvani Ityupadharaya Aham Kritsnasya Jagataha Prabhavaha Pralayasthatha. That everything in this universe is actually nothing but a function of these 2 Shaktis. Now, Sri Bhagavan is the original cause and the source and the essence. Prabhavaha Pralayasthatha. Both the source, Prabhava, and the Pralaya, means the dissolution or the ending of everything. Everything comes from him, everything goes into him. So in today's session, we'll continue from where we left off last time. And here we are going to talk about the 3 gunas of Sri Bhagavan's Maya Shakti. They're called sattva, rajas, and tamas, and how they bind us. Guna, the word guna in Sanskrit has multiple meanings. The very first meaning that comes to mind is quality, right? Guna, lakshana, quality. But many other meanings also exist. Another meaning of guna is measure. Like we say, do guna, teen guna, measure, multiple. Yet another meaning is senses and sense objects, the sense organs and the sense objects. It's used in that sense also in the Bhagavad-Gita. And a fourth meaning, which is what we are going to talk about now, is the meaning of a rope. Guna means a string or a rope with which something is bound, something is tied. So sattva, rajas, and tamas are 3 types of ropes that Maya uses to bind us in this samsara. Okay, so how these 3 gunas, these 3 ropes, they bind us, we are going to talk about today. And we will not be able to complete the discussion today. So in the next class also, we will continue with this. Now, in today's class, we will also see Sri Bhagavan telling us that this Maya is extremely difficult to overcome, and only by taking refuge in him, by doing Bhakti Yoga, one can overcome this Maya. Okay, the first shloka is this. Ye chaiva sattvika bhavaha rajasas tamasascha ye matta eve titan vidhi natvaham teshu te mai. He says ye means these cha eva sattvika bhavaha rajasas tamasascha ye. So in this universe, you see different types of natures, bhavaha, different types of existential natures. And they are, broadly speaking, sattvika nature, rajasic nature, tamasic nature. So he says that whatever you see in this universe, matta eva, they are coming from me only. Matta eva, they are all coming from me only. Tan vidhi, know that. Please know that. Vidhi means no. Please know that they are coming from me only. Na tu aham. Tu aham. Tu aham is tu aham. Na tu aham teshu. I am not in them, but te mai. They are in me. I am not in them, but they are in me. Right? So what does he mean by that? Let us see that. He says, know that the sattvika, rajasic and tamasic natures come from me only. However, I am not subservient to or dependent upon them. Rather, they are subservient to and dependent upon me. Okay, that's what he means by saying, aham teshu na asmi. Te mai sta. Say te mai santi. Okay, so I am not in them, they are in me, means that I am actually not inferior or dependent upon them. They are dependent upon me. So this is the introduction he gives, and then he goes on. He says, Tribir gunamayer bhave, ebihi sarvamidam jagat, mohitam na bijanati mamebhya paramavyayam. He says, Tribihi gunamayahi bhavayihi. These three natures, which are gunamaya, they are made of these gunas. These three natures come from these three gunas. By these, sarvamidam jagat, this entire universe, mohitam, is diluted. Sare jagat ko moh mein dal diya hai, in teen gunon ne. So because of that, what happens? Na abhijanati, does not know. Does not know what? Mam, me. So because of these three gunas have put everybody into a delusion or illusion. Because of that, the whole universe does not know me. Nobody in this universe knows me. And what do they not know about me? They don't know Mam ebhya paramavyayam. They don't know that I am superior to these three gunas. So when I come here, I come as the Krishna of Vrindavan, Gokula Vrindavan. I perform different leelas. And the ordinary people, they think I am also like them. Just like they are under these three gunas. They know that there are three gunas. Everywhere in the Hindu philosophy, these three gunas are being talked about. So everybody knows that they are under the influence of gunas. Even great scholars, they tell others. Normal people also, if you go to a village, they'll say sattva, rajas, tamas. They talk about it. But they think that I am also like that. I am also under the influence of these three gunas. I'm playing with some girls. I'm fighting with somebody. They think like that. They don't know that I am above these three gunas. Okay. This entire universe is deluded by these three natures resulting from the three gunas. As such, it does not know me, who is above the gunas and infallible. Avyaya. Avyaya means a person who doesn't perish. Vyaya. Vyaya means that which perishes. Vyaya ho jata hai. Avyaya. Something that is avyaya means it has no degradation. It doesn't perish. Okay, I am that. I am imperishable. I am beyond these three gunas. So there is also in the Shastra, in the Vishnu Purana and other places, there is, for example, a statement which says, Mayam tu prakritim viddhi, Mayinam tu Maheshwaram. So Maya is Prakriti, this Prakriti that we see, the Apara Prakriti. Apara Prakriti is Maya, but the possessor, Mayi is the possessor of Maya, right? Maya asya asti iti Mayi. The one who has Maya is Mayi. So Bhagavan is called Mayi. And he is Maheshwara, means he is the master, supreme Ishvara of everything, including these three gunas. Daivi hi esha gunamayi mama maya duratyaya mameva ye prapadyante maya metam tarantite. This is a very, very often cited shloka in the Bhagavad-Gita. It says, this Maya, Okay, Daivihi Esha Gunamayi, sorry. Daivi, divine. Okay, she's not an ordinary energy, she's a divine energy because she is my energy. Esha Gunamayi, she is actually made up of these gunas. Mama Maya, she is my Maya. Okay, Mama Maya, Duratyaya. Duratyaya means very difficult to cross over. जिसको पार करना बहुत मुश्किल है, बहुत बहुत कठिन है. दुरत्यया. Okay. Mamev ye prapadyante. Only those who surrender to me. Prapadyante. Prapadyante means take my refuge or take my shelter. Mameva. Only me. Not anybody else. Mameva ye prapadyante. Mayam etam tarantite. Mayam. This mayam etam taranti. Taranti means actually literally means swim across. Taranti. Tairna, we say, right? In Hindi. So taranti means swim across. So only those who take my refuge, Shri Krishna says, they can swim across this Maya. Only by taking my refuge, you can overcome this Maya, go across this Maya. Otherwise, Maya is extremely difficult to cross over. So this divine Maya of mine, constituted by the three gunas, is extremely difficult to overcome. Only those who take my refuge overcome this Maya. And this is the reason why I've been saying in the previous chapters also, where we did not talk about Sri Bhagavan's nature there. We're talking about different forms of yoga, karma yoga, jnana yoga, ashtanga yoga. And I've been consistently telling you that only by performing bhakti can one get mukti. Mukti is a product of bhakti eventually. All other forms of yoga, they take you to a point where it is favorable to perform bhakti. But unless you actually perform bhakti, you cannot cross over Maya. You can go to a very high state of sattva guna. Okay, we'll talk about sattva guna now. But you cannot get mukti, because mukti means becoming free from Maya. Mukti means coming out of the prison of Maya. Okay, so the Maya Prakriti of Sri Bhagavan is actually compared to a prison house. Okay, there's also an example given of a monkey. Okay, in some places, there's some tribe, the way they catch a monkey is that they keep a food item which is which monkey is very fond of, some fruit or something, behind some bars, window with bars, and behind that they keep this. And the monkey comes, they know the monkey will come. The monkey comes, they watch, they are waiting and watching. Monkey comes and it puts its hand inside the bars and it holds that item. And it then tries to take the item out of those bars. Now what happens is, while putting the hand inside, the hand can go like this. In this way, you can put your hand inside the bar. The bars are so arranged that the gap between them is just enough to put your hand inside. Now, if you have to take your hand outside, you have to take it out in the same manner. Now, what happens? The monkey holds on to the fruit. Because the monkey is holding the fruit, the hand becomes like this. So in this shape, it won't come out of the bar. Only if you make it like this. Now, if the monkey makes it like this, to take the hand outside, the fruit will fall down. And the monkey does not want to give up the fruit because it's so fond of that fruit. So once it has grabbed the fruit, there's nothing that can make the monkey leave the fruit. Nothing. The monkey holds on to the fruit and it's not able to pull its hand outside the bars. As a result, these people can go and comfortably catch the monkey. Okay, so this is an analogy given to explain why we are not able to come out of Maya. Maya is a prison house, but in this prison house, we are attracted by all the wonderful things that Maya creates for us, all the different types of material happiness in the form of sense pleasures, our ego, etc. So this pleasure is so difficult to give up that we are holding on to them so much that even when there is good advice, sadupadesh like this, Bhagavan comes and says that you can come to me, I will give you more happiness than Maya can give you. But we cannot let it go. We cannot let this Maya go. So even more than Maya holding on to us, we are holding on to Maya. Just like this monkey is holding on to that fruit. And that is why Maya is very difficult to overcome. If you are willing to let go and hold on to Bhagavan or hold on to Krishna, turn towards Krishna, become antarmukha. Okay, turning towards Maya is called bahirmukha. is a Bahiranga Shakti. But Antaranga Shakti, turning towards Bhagavan's Antaranga Shakti and Bhagavan himself, makes it very easy. Then we can give up this Maya and turn towards him. So it's very difficult to know him, but at the same time, by turning towards him, it's very easy to know him. Okay, both sides to it. So in today's class, I will touch more upon the three gunas which are binding us, sattva, rajas, and tamas. So first I'll talk about the experience of sattva, rajas, and tamas so that we can judge. This is something that all of us can easily relate to. Maybe whatever I spoke till now in the last 20 minutes, some of you were not comfortable because there is deep philosophy in it. But what I'm going to speak now in the next 20 minutes will be very easy because something that all of us experience these things in our living, in our life. In sattva, when the sattva guna is acting upon us in a dominant way, we experience these kind of things. A lot of inner peace, calmness of the mind, freedom from misery, internal misery, mental misery, quietness, sense of inner quietness, sense of knowledge and illumination, clarity of mind, lightness of the mind, purity of thought. No bad thoughts in the mind, no violent thoughts, no anger. Okay, and we also experience detachment from the result of our work. Suppose we are doing something, result will come, but we are not, our sense of success is not dependent on the result. Now, what happens when Rajaguna is dominating our mind? When Rajaguna dominates, it creates things like this. A desire for material enjoyment, a desire for fame. Okay, material enjoyment may be gross, sensual enjoyment. More subtle form of material enjoyment is fame, name, fame, power, respect of others, abhiman, deep attachment for what one has. I already have some possessions, very deep attachment towards them. If somebody touches what I have, then I become angry. Right? If somebody, let's say a cyclist is passing by my car and he touches my car, I lose my temper. I abuse him. I forget that I'm educated. Abuse him on the road in front of everybody. Right? Just a small touch is enough. That much possessiveness with my own car, but not with my own body. My car is more dear to me than my own body also. And hankering for what one does not have, comparing with others. And when I do work, I do it with very deep attachment for what is going to come. If I get success, I'm very happy. If I don't get success, I'm very miserable. Happiness and misery are completely dependent upon what comes out of my work. Okay, that's called attachment to the fruits. Detachment means I will work very sincerely, but my happiness and success don't depend on the outcome. The outcome is a natural result of my work. Okay, what happens in tamas? In tamas, the person is heavily under the influence of things like sleep, laziness, carelessness, inadvertence, pramada, confusion, negligence, darkness of the mind, means cloudiness, cloudy thinking. Thinking is not clear, confused, mistake the right thing for the wrong thing and the wrong thing for the right thing. And doing work also, it is painful labor, not even inspired by the fruits. The person in Rajoguna is inspired by the fruits. He's anticipating the happiness that comes from getting the fruit. But the person in tamas, not inspired by that also. Even if you show him some big fruit, not inspired by that. Coming back to sattva, sattva fills us with a sense of inner contentment, a sense of simplicity. Live life as simple as possible. A sense of parsimony means no need of many things. A few things which are essential will do. A sense of satisfaction with what one has. Okay, one may have, let's say, some furniture in the house for 40 years. Maybe one's grandfather bought it. It's now 60 years old, 80 years old. ठीक है, उससे काम चल रहा है. Why should I buy a new one? Right? It's good enough. I'll buy something that I require, or I'll give my money to some good cause. Why waste money buying something? Unless it's really useless. Right? Satisfaction. And very important, a taste for knowledge. Sattva is connected to knowledge. Okay, likes a person in sattva likes to acquire knowledge for the sake of knowledge, for the happiness that comes from knowledge, from knowing, the happiness that comes from knowing. Okay, he's not acquiring knowledge thinking that because I get knowledge, I'll get a job. Once I get a job, I'll get money. Once I get money, I'll get status. No, knowledge for the sake of knowledge itself. It may also give other things, but his interest is in the knowledge itself. That is purity. Okay. And in Sattva Guna, when Sattva Guna is very high, then one hankers for spiritual knowledge. One's sense of detachment from one's own body also becomes very strong. And one is able to really appreciate what the scriptures like the Bhagavad-gi are teaching. Okay, now what happens to somebody in Rajas? In Rajas, a person is filled with greed, envy, jealousy, the desire to defeat others, always comparing oneself with others, not happy when somebody else succeeds, especially if that somebody else is one's own colleague, one's own competitor, sometimes one's own brother or sister. One feels very jealous. They should not get more than me. They should not win. How can they win? So sometimes in Rajoguna is very high, one may actually forget about one's own work and spend time trying to pull the other person down. Instead of doing one's own work, one may actually go out of the way to make sure the other person does not succeed. Right? This is a result of too much rajas. Discontentment with however much one has. Okay, so there is a constant need for change. So all the development we see in the world today, the word development means what? What does the word development mean? The word development in economics, as it is taught, is material development, right? That's why a country like the US or Japan, European countries like Germany, France, the UK, they are considered developed countries. Why? If you go there, you will find huge skyscrapers, big buildings, huge cars, big cars, big roads, huge parks. Everything is big, abundant, rich, right? A lot of money. People earn much more money. They can buy whatever they want. They can go off their work for years together. Huge amount of... Why has that happened? Right? This happened because of the drive of Rajoguna. Rajoguna means discontent. We want more. We will work hard. We'll work hard and we'll get more and more and more and more. Our enjoyment will increase. Okay, this is discontentment. I'm not saying it is wrong. I'm only saying that is Rajoguna working there. So, and there is a frequent comparison. There is always war. Okay? Russia, big country, huge amount of oil reserves, so many things they have, right? And they have so less population, so everybody can have a lot of land also. But still, you go and attack a small country like Ukraine. They're not happy. They want to make sure Ukraine also becomes part of them. Ukraine cannot align with NATO and other countries. No, we won't allow that. So discontentment, frustration, right? That is rajas. Now, real frustration is here, tamas. Tamas is much worse than rajas, because in tamas, one has not even the energy or not even the aspiration that a person in rajas has. There's irritability, anger, frustration, dejection, hopelessness. Okay, the tendency to say that, nothing will work for me. Pessimism. Pessimism comes as a result of tamoguna. When you see somebody very pessimistic, you can understand that there is a lot of tamas in their mind. There's inner weakness. There is no faith in oneself. There's no confidence that I can do it. Okay, anything, even a small initiative, you try to tell them that, okay, right now you are jobless, but I'll show you a way by which you can get a job and you can then build a career. They will hear you, but then they will say, nahi, mujhse nahi hoga wo sab. Itna karna padega kya? और वो सिर्फ 10,000 रुपया देगा. इतना करने के बाद भी, I have met people like that. I'm showing him a way to work and come up in life, but he doesn't want it. Because he says that I have to work so much only for 10,000 rupees. So I'm telling him, at least do that much, you will get 10,000 rupees. No, I won't do. If it comes by itself, I'm happy. So that is hopelessness, pessimism, inner weakness, lack of initiative, no enthusiasm towards anything. So this is a function of tamas. Now, what happens when... There's a lot more actually. We'll go into that in the coming session also. But this is something I wanted to touch upon. Now, what happens when somebody dies in Sattva Guna? Why is Sri Bhagavan asking us to be in Sattva Guna more and more? Is that Urdhvam Gachanti Sattvastaha says that if you die in the state of Sattva Guna, then you're born again. Your rebirth happens in a higher state of existence, such as Svargaloka, Tapoloka. Above the Bhuloka, Bhuvarloka, then we have Svargaloka, Tapoloka, Maharloka, Janaloka, Satyaloka. Satyaloka is where Brahma stays. So you get birth in a higher loka. higher state of existence among divine beings. Okay, where there is a much better source of happiness, much better state of happiness than on this earth. Devas, the sages, the rishis, tapasvis, etc. They live in such lokas. In Rajoguna, what happens? You get born again in a similar kind of a mentality. People who are materialistic, people who have a lot of greed, hankering, a desire for enjoyment, born among them. And in Tamoguna, when somebody dies in a lot of Tamoguna, then they take birth in lower states of existence, such as tribals, animals, and so on. Absolutely no taste for knowledge. Knowledge looks very repulsive to such people. When Tamoguna is high, any form of learning, knowledge, anything new looks very uninteresting. So this is just to give us a feel for these gunas, and we will discuss more. And actually, if we study this deeply, we can even make a set of criteria for ourselves to judge where we are at any given point of time. Okay, now I wanted to also touch upon a few very important things in today's class. Which guna predominates? Okay, now here Sri Bhagavan answers this. Says, Rajas tamascha abhibhuya sattvam bhavati bharata. Rajas sattvam tamaschaiva tamaha sattvam rajas tatha. Now, this shloka is not from the current chapter. It is from the 14th chapter, the 10th shloka of the 14th chapter. The entire 14th chapter of Bhagavad-gita is only on these three gunas. Sattva, Rajas, Tamas. The whole chapter, beginning to end. Okay, so this shloka appears there. So he says that at any given point of time, one of the three gunas predominates the other two. Predominates over the other two. Okay, so he says, Rajas tamascha abhibhuya sattvam bhavati bharata. Sattva sometimes abhibhuya. Abhibhut karta hai. Abhibhut means to predominate or to subduce. So sattva subdues rajas and tamas sometimes and becomes predominant in its influence on us. Then rajaha sattvam tamas chaiva means raja and sattva tamoguna abhibhut karta hai. Tamoguna dominates or subdues rajas and sattva sometimes, and tamaha sattvam rajas tatha. Okay, sorry. The first portion here meant rajaha sattvam tamaschaiva. Rajaguna dominates or subdues sattva-guna, tamoguna sometimes. And then third, tamoguna dominates sattvam and rajas, sattva and rajas other times. So basically what this shloka is saying is that at any given point of time, one of the three gunas becomes predominant and dominates over the other two. Now, this is also, you can say in every 24-hour cycle, generally speaking, we go through all of these three. Sometimes, for example, early in the morning, suppose you get up at, let's say, 5 o'clock in the morning, okay, around this time of sunrise. Here in Jamshedpur right now, sunrise is about 5 o'clock in the morning. Okay, around that time or slightly before sunrise, and then you clean yourself up and go for a small walk in a nearby park or something, you feel a lot of sattva guna, a lot of peace, calmness, clarity in your mind, etc. Right? But let's say in the night time, around 10:30, 11 in the night, the end of a day, you're tired. And that's the time you go to sleep. You feel very sleepy, you can't concentrate. That's when tamoguna is entering. Tamoguna is the guna which is driving us sleep. Okay? We need that for our sleep. Sleep is a function of tamoguna. Rajoguna takes place in the predominant part of the daytime when we go to work. Typically, our jobs, our work today in today's world is driven by the desire for career, money, passion, etc. So all that is driven by rajas. We come under the influence of rajas during those times of the day. So then Sri Bhagavan also talks about in another place in the 18th chapter. I'm just touching upon some pockets here just to highlight how these gunas play themselves out in our life. It's about happiness. Happiness in sattva, rajas and tamas. Sukham tu idanim trividham shunume bharatarshava. Abhyasad ramate yatra dukkhantam cha nigacchati. He says, now I'm going to tell you about the three gunas with respect to happiness, the influence they have on happiness, how happiness is experienced by people who are predominantly under sattva, rajas or tamas. So he says for sattva guna now, abhyasad ramate yatra dukkhantam cha nigacchati. When somebody is under the predominant influence of sattva guna, then they are prone to devote themselves to abhyasa. Abhyasa means repeated activity. They don't get tired of doing the same activity again and again, repetition. They are comfortable with discipline. Abhyasa also means discipline, following discipline, repetition, consistency, routine, sticking to a routine, etc. Dukkhantam cha nigachati, and that is the source of the end of their misery. Their misery, dukkhantam cha nigachati. They attain the end of misery by following discipline in their life. And he's going to say more now. When one feels happy in the culture of systematic practice, routine, discipline, one achieves the end of one's miseries. And this is the sukha of sattva, but there is more to it. He says, yattadagre vishamiva pariname amrutopamam tat sukham satvikam proktam atma buddhi prasadajam. So he says, yattadagre, that which in the beginning, agre, vishamiva is like poison. Pariname amrutopamam. But at the end, parinama means the end or the conclusion, it's like amrita. That which is like poison in the beginning, but like nectar at the end. That sukha, tat sukham satvikam proktam, that sukha is called sattvika. And it says atma buddhi prasadajam. This is actually favorable to atma buddhi, the knowledge of the atma, knowledge of the self, and it's prasadaja. It actually delivers one from miseries. And he says that happiness that seems like poison in the beginning but feels like nectar at the end and brings clarity in one's mind and intelligence. Atma buddhi prasadajam. You can interpret that phrase like that also. Prasada is happiness or pleasure to one's mind and intelligence, is said to be of the nature of sattva. It's sattvika sukha. So discipline in general, anything that we do with commitment, discipline, with proper guidance, we do the right thing, not the wrong thing. The wrong thing also can be done with discipline, but doing the right thing with proper discipline, with guidance, etc., gives us clarity. It seems like poison in the beginning. It's painful to do it in the beginning. So we complain, why are we made to do this? But it gives nectar at the end. It gives a sense of fulfillment, happiness, and we want to do it again after that. So that is called sattvika sukha. Now let's look at rajasika sukha. Vishayendriya sanyogat yattad agre amrutopamam pariname vishamiva tat sukham rajasamsmritam. He says, Vishayendriya sanyogat, owing to contact of the sense objects, owing to contact with the sense objects, Vishaya, Indriya, Indriya Vishaya sanyogat, or Vishaya Indriya means the object of the senses with the senses. When our senses come in contact with their sense objects, Yat tat agre amrutopama, that which appears like happiness or nectar, that which appears like nectar owing to the contact of the senses with the sense objects in the beginning, pariname vishamiva, but like poison at the end. That's sukham rajasam smritam. That kind of happiness is in the mode of rajas, or is under the influence of rajas. So you can think of a lot of such kinds of happiness, for example, eating a lot of food, or you can think of so many different types of sensual pleasures that people and we also indulge ourselves in. We do not think much because the sense pleasure attracts us so much and we have the money to indulge in it. We go indulge in it, but at the end of it, there is a sense of, it's gone, it's over, or whatever disease it causes. It may cause disease sometimes, it may cause us to get into problems sometimes. And that is like Visha, that's the misery that comes as a result of it. Happiness, which owing to one's contact with the sense object seems like nectar in the beginning, but feels like poison at the end, is of the nature of rajas, rajasika sukha. And for tamas, he says, yad agrecha anubandhecha sukham mohanam atmanaha nidralasya pramadottam tat tamasam udahrata. That which in the beginning as well as in the end, agrecha anubandhecha, in the beginning as well as the end, that which is mohanam, which is delusive in nature. Atmanaha mohanam means it looks like happiness, but it's never happiness in the beginning or in the end. Nidralasya pramadottam. How does it come? It comes from nidra, sleep, laziness, alasya, from not doing anything. Pramada means inadvertence or negligence of activity. Tat tamasam udahritam. Like, this is very easy to understand because many of us actually experience this. we don't have to do anything today because there's no deadline, right? Deadline is very far away. We can sleep, we can just laze around, go to the park and sit there, or go with some friends and gossip. So this is all tamasic sukha, because it looks like happiness. It gives us the illusion of being happy. I'm free, totally free, right? So freedom of non-discipline, indiscipline's freedom. But what happens? It's very elusive. And eventually it gets us into very deep trouble, right? We don't end up going anywhere, and our happiness is very short-lived. And it is neither happiness in the beginning nor happiness in the end. Okay, in Rajas, at least you had something that looked like happiness in the beginning. It appeared like poison only later. But in Tamas, it's only elusive happiness. It's no happiness at all. It's misery throughout. So that happiness, which is delusive both in the beginning and at the end, and comes from sleep, laziness, inadvertence, or negligence, is of the nature of tamas, tamasika sukha. So Sri Bhagavan covers all this, and this question also is very relevant. Is anyone free from the three gunas? So Sri Bhagavan says, in this material existence, natadasti prithivyam va divi deveshu va punaha sattvam prakriti jair muktam yadebihi syat tribhir gunaihi. He says that there is nothing, no creature. Sattvam here means being. Sattvam, the word sattva also means being, any living being. There's no being, prakriti jaihi muktam, in this material existence, which is free from any of these three gunas. All the three gunas act upon all the living beings in this entire universe, right from Brahma, topmost living being in this universe is Brahma, down to the smallest, you can say, virus, the COVID virus, you can say, whatever, whichever virus, small, insect virus, anything, everything is under the influence of these three gunas. He says, specifically says, Prithivyam va divi deveshu va punaha, whether it's on the earth, Prithvi, or divi deveshu, among the gods, the devas in divi, in heaven, in Swargaloka. Okay, heaven is an English word, so I'll say in Swargaloka, divi. Divi means Swargaloka. So he says, nobody is free from this. There's no living being, either on the earth or amongst the devas in the higher lokas, that is free from the influence of the three gunas. So how do we increase sattva, reduce rajas and tamas? Sattva is the one that is advocated. So I have identified broadly 5 dimensions that we can all think about. One is the sense of a clear purpose in life. Those who have a purpose in life have a better chance of elevating themselves to sattva than someone who is purposeless, who doesn't have a clear direction. Most important thing next to purpose is the diet that we eat. It is said that we are what we eat. What we eat goes into our body, it goes into our mind, our intelligence, everything is affected by what we eat. So there is something called a sattvic food. Today it's becoming very popular. It's becoming commercial also. People are making money out of promoting sattvic food because there is so much tamas. There's a need for sattva. For somebody. So there was a time in the country when sattvic diet was the normal diet of people. But when today it is not so, a lot of people, especially the educated people, eat very tamasic food. So sattvic diet which is very fresh, which is clean, which is made of vegetables, which has no meat, fish, eggs, etc. in it, which is even free from onion, garlic, mushrooms. So diet which is pure, which is fresh, freshly cooked, and cooked with a proper frame of mind. The person cooking the diet is not in a state of anger, frustration, is pure in mind. They cook it, that becomes sattvic, and it's also eaten. The food is eaten ideally within the first 3 hours, when it is warm, when it is fresh, and food which is not very, you can say, astringent, bitter, even if it is fresh. Food which is not, like you can say, things like namkeen. Okay? Even when they are very fresh, they are not very sattvic. Fried items, deep fried items. Foods which are juicy, like fruits. Juicy, which are oily, snigdha, like ghee, for example. Desi gai ka ghee. Little bit of ghee. Such kind of foods are considered sattvic. Okay, sleep is extremely important. Sri Bhagavan also says that yukta hara viharasya yukta cheshtasya karmasu yukta swapnava bodhasya yogo bhavati dukkha. Sleep should be appropriate according to our body's requirement. The body and mind require sleep. So one should not compromise on sleep. Fitness is very important. Health, the bodily fitness. It is not only for looking good. Today, when somebody does fitness, people may sometimes tease that person. Okay, you want to look good, you want to play the Olympics, etc. But that apart, fitness was a part of the Indian culture before also. It is part of the Vedic system of knowledge. So even those who are not following Ashtanga Yoga, they were actually doing, they were actually engaging in exercises to keep their body and mind fit. So fitness is extremely important. And environment, the ecosystem in which we live, both in terms of the living and non-living beings. The place we live should be clean, surrounded by, say, trees. Like, for example, our XLRI campus is like that. A lot of trees, greens. We have all the time, we have flowers in our campus. It's very clean and nice. We have a park next door. The people around whom we live, the people, if they should be peaceful, they should not be troublesome. So the environment also contributes. So by taking care of these things and moderating these things properly, we can try to reduce the rajas and tamas in our life and increase the sattva guna. And by increasing sattva guna, we are able to understand the purpose of life better. We are able to understand these things like the Gita. To really understand what the Gita is saying, we should maximize, we should be as much as possible in sattva and have as little rajas and tamas inside us. So there's a lot more. Actually, I wanted to show you that I did a little analysis on all this. Let me see if I can locate that file by doing Alt-Tab. Yeah, here. The Gita actually has 701 shlokas. The predominant version of Gita has 700 shlokas, but there's a version which I'm following, which has one extra shloka in the 13th chapter, which Arjuna speaks. So you can take it as 701. Out of that 701, 579 shlokas are spoken by Krishna, by Bhagavan. 86 are spoken by Arjuna, 9 shlokas by Duryodhana. Sanjaya speaks 26 and Dhritarashtra speaks 1. And out of these 579 shlokas that Sri Bhagavan speaks, 80 shlokas are about sattva, rajas and tamas. In 80 of these 579 shlokas, he is speaking about these three gunas of Prakriti. Okay, that shows why it is so important to know this. 80 out of 579 is about 14%. Okay, so I've made a file in which I have tried to, let me try to locate that file. Here it is. In this Word file, I copied all those 80 shlokas from the Gita and I did a thematic analysis just to see what kind of themes are being spoken about. I've covered a few of those themes today in the PPT. I'll cover more in the next class. If any of you want this file, please send me an email and I'll send it to you. You can have a look. And very interestingly, you see, these 80 shlokas are not in the same chapter. You see, today's chapter 7 chapter has 3 of them, only 3 of them. So they cover various chapters. Like here, I have all the 80 listed here. They span from the 2nd chapter onward. There's 1 shloka in the 2nd chapter. There's 1 in the 3rd chapter, which indirectly touches upon them by talking about the 4 varnas. 7 chapter 3. Then 14th chapter, the entire chapter is about the 3 gunas only. So a lot of shlokas in the 14th chapter. And then we have chapter 17. Chapter 17 of Bhagavad Gita is an analysis of Shraddha, conviction. Right? He says, Sattvanurupa sarvasya Shraddha bhavati bharata, Shraddha mayoyam purushaha, yoyat Shraddha saeva. So the entire Shraddha analysis is done beginning with the analysis of the 3 gunas, how the 3 gunas play a role in shaping Shraddha in different types. And as he talks about Shraddha, he talks about how the 3 gunas influence the various dimensions of life which we live through, like the food we eat, the karma they do. So I've made a table in which I've identified these 12 dimensions. And these dimensions span both the 17th chapter and the 18th chapter as well. So a number of shlokas in the 18th chapter, the last chapter of Bhagavad-gita, also pertain to analyzing different dimensions of life in terms of the three gunas. Okay, I'll take you through them as we go along. And before I do that, before I reach those chapters, in the next session itself, I will expose you to these 12 dimensions of a person's life, which are influenced by the three gunas in different ways. For example, Shraddha in the 17th chapter, somebody who has a Shraddha in sattva guna, vis-a-vis rajoguna, vis-a-vis tamoguna, how will they worship different types of living beings, the food that they consume, the worship, the type of worship they do, tapasya that is performed, the dana that is given, charity. Right? I'll explain these things in some detail in the next class, and if required, one more class as well. So we understand sattva, rajas, tamas better as we go forward. And this is something that we can do right away. Even if we are not able to relate with some of the more philosophical things that the Bhagavad Gita is teaching us, understanding how to increase sattva in our life, living a more sattvic life, being more happy materially, that is something that is more easily accessible to us. So that's where we are today, and I will stop with this, and we can discuss questions, etc. Om Shanno Mitrasham Varunaha Shanno Bhavatvaryama Shanna Indro Brihaspatihi Shanno Vishnurukramaha Namo Brahmane Namaste Vayo Tvameva Pratyaksham Brahmasi Tvameva Pratyaksham Brahma Vadishyami Ritam Vadishyami Satyam Vadishyami Tanmamavatu Tadbhaktaramavatu Avatu Mam Avatu Bhaktaram. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om Tat Sat.